Welcome back to the Musketeers podcast, and this is episode 3, and we have Julian behind the camera. My name is Matt, and we have here
John Dewey. Nice to meet everyone.
So Mr. Dewey, who are you? What made you interested in education?
It's a good one. You know, since I was young, I always had a passion for philosophy and education. You know, there's so much to think about when you really look at the big picture of things. You know, not even just the the physical where you are, but how you look at things, how you practice things. So I think it's just so general, and there's so much to it. It intrigued me.
What was school like during your time?
School. It was different than what it is now. Things are very different. The people, the environments, the way you learn, the things that you learn. Everything changes over time. So it's very different now.
What problems do you think there were when teachers were teaching students?
Well, me, I'm older now, so back in my day, I think the biggest issues were that the teachers knew less than what they should have for that time. There's so much information that was unsure about, so it's hard to teach something you don't know.
And the question that we had was about your impact. How did your ideas change the way teachers teach today?
So, start off, from my teachings. We opened up a lot of schools with different philosophy concepts using this. So I think it definitely helped show educators that there's multiple ways to go about things, multiple ways to experience and learn on different topics. So I think definitely being more hands-on and being more experimental with what you're teaching, I think that was the biggest change.
And how do you think it could connect to real life, like scenarios that students will have?
With my philosophy being, experience to learn change, to learn new things. Anything in life you have to experience to fully understand. You can't, how do I say it? You can't clean a floor if you've never cleaned one before,
Why do you think your ideas are so important today?
I think my ideas are still important today because they're realistic, A lot of the times when you look at other philosophies, it's too overshot, too general, versus mine, it's the thing that you're doing every day. You're always experiencing something, whether it's something new or something that you've experienced before. So that creates change, that creates, mindsets. It gives you the ability to be able to see, what has happened before, what is happening now because of that experience, and change on from there. So I think that's something we all use on the day-to-day.
And what would you say about, like, in classroom today, how students are using technology and different type of resources to help them?
I'm not too experienced in my technology, older guy. But I think just like I said before, it's like you have to do stuff to learn. You have to do something to learn something else. So I think gaining that experience, being able to change up the way you look at things, change up the way you use things, like that ChatGPT thing that all the kids are talking about nowadays, like that goes off of experience. People, they want to find easier ways to do things, easier concept styles, so they use their past experience, build something, and then now they're experiencing the new wave of the what's it called, the AI. There you go. So yeah.
And then what would you change? What about schools would you change today if you could?
I'd say more hands-on. There's not enough experimenting. There's not enough learning through trial and error and experience of things. It's more just, hey, do it this way, do it that way, or don't do it anyway. And I think that's a very in-the-box concept, especially with my philosophy. I think you have to experience things for yourself, and then if that way doesn't work, try something else, and keep trying, and then find your style, find your experience path, and work it through there.
And do you think schools are focused more on testing today instead of actually connecting to, like, helping them learn?
I'd say it depends. Everything is dependent on factors and situations, so I'd say some more than others, yes. But I think it comes down to, the style of the school, the type of school, what you're learning, the topics, and also your involvement as a person. I think if you're more involved in certain topics, you're going to be more experimental and have more experience in something compared to someone else.
To go off of that, how do you think you can make school more interesting for students?
have more independent, hands-on formats. I think a lot of times we put everything in like one big group and then expect everyone to pick off little pieces from something instead of just giving them, their own path and kind of letting them play around with their, experiments, whatnot, learning things their own way.
Do you think grades are the best way to measure measure learning, like what students learn?
I wouldn't say grades. I think they're more of a tool, definitely. You can range whether someone is coming to actually learn and educate themselves versus someone who's just there to, to not do anything. But then you also got to think about a lot of people don't learn the same way. They don't have the same, mindsets and values. So even though they might learn something on paper, they might just, not be in the mood to write it. So then you can't give them a bad grade for something that they don't necessarily write, especially if they're able to explain it and able to have that conversation with you on it. So I think it more comes down to like grades as a tool, but the experiences that you're having with them as the actual learning objective.
What was your experience like in school?
Mine was good. I was always a hands-on kid, I had a lot of struggles back in the day, but everything, led to where I am now, so it's good.
Why do you think group work is important?
I'd say, in the sense, it can be important, but at the same time, it not necessarily is. And I'll start off with the not is. So it's not necessarily important because you can learn and experience things by yourself, and you're gonna have your clearest form of path for what you think is right, all based off of what you're experiencing, right? But I think if you're in a group setting, it's multiple experiences all coming together to create a much clearer path. It's like in the sense of like, let's say, like I just said, path. You're making a trail, versus you making a trail by yourself. You have to, use the shovel, break the leaves, do everything by yourself. It's going to take a lot longer, and it might not be as clean of a path as when you have 4 or 5 other people who are all trying to build that same path.
And then, what is the goal of education in your opinion?
I don't think there is an end goal to education, because you're always learning. You're always, experiencing new things. You're always trying new things, whether that be even just, something as simple as, what time you wake up in the morning. So I think the end goal should be every day, right before you go to bed, realizing, hey, what have I experienced today that's different from other days, and where can I push myself in a better direction using this?
What advice would you give to teachers using digital tools today in the classroom?
I'd say stray away from digital, in the sense of, not everything needs to be posted and done later. A lot of things can be done then and there and talked about and discussed and experienced through as like a whole group. So it's the difference between, a teacher posting an assignment, having students do it separately to the side, and a group of kids working all in a circle, giving their different opinions and their different discussions on, how they feel is best to handle certain things.
And what do you think about online learning and remote classes?
Never did much of that back in my day, but I've heard, it can be beneficial, especially for people who, a little further, out from, wherever you're centralized at. Me, I used to climb, walk hills and everything, get to school. It was different time. But I think it's good, can be beneficial. I think there's a lot of things that will make it not beneficial, especially if, with all the IA and stuff like that. It's AI? There's too much information that's being given instead of learned and experienced, and, there's not a lot of trial and error with things like AI, since it's meant to be accurate, but it's, you don't learn by, 100% success. You have to fail, to really see where you went wrong.
And you have any knowledge to drop on us today? Something new to learn?
I'd say go out and learn. Go out and experience something. Do something you've never done. Do it bad. Do it good. Do it in every aspect, and learn your style. Learn the things that you like and the things you enjoy. I think don't stick to such a straight line with everything. Allow it to bend, to curve, to break. Try new things out.
And to go off of that, do you think schools are more strict or flexible?
It goes back to situational. Depends. Depends on the people. Depends on how you learn, your styles, your values, and everything.
So how do you think teachers could keep students engaged in like schoolwork and stuff?
Allow them to fail, and I don't mean in a grade sense. Allow them to try something. Give them a task. Allow them to manage it, to learn it, to fully understand what the good and the bad of it is.
All right. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Mr. Dewey.